everyone, it's Rebecca here and this is my 5th time of filming this intro. Hello everyone, it's Rebecca here and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, hello, how are you doing? Today's video is going to be a wrap up of some recent reads that I have been reading. Basically, I don't do monthly wrap-ups as such because I don't read enough in a month to warrant that. Sometimes I read loads and sometimes I read nothing, and usually it's nothing, let's be real. So I have some books from the last time I posted the wrap-up video, which was like March time, I believe. So that was like the first 3 months of the year, or the first quarter of the year, and then this is the next 3 months. So I have some highlights for you and some not so highlights, but without further ado, let's get into it. The first one I have here is easily one of my most anticipated books of the year after reading the first one earlier on in the year, and it fell flat for me, and that is The Evolution by Tom and Giovanna Fletcher. This is the sequel to Eve of Man. I've spoke about this in a vlog, I've spoke about this on Twitter and on Instagram, but for me, this fell flat. So this picks up exactly where the first one left off, and we have a couple of new perspectives. So in this installment we have Bram and Eve's perspective, and we also have a third perspective by Michael, and I really enjoyed that perspective because it allowed us to see what was on the other side of this whole situation, and it wasn't pretty. And that's one of the things that I didn't really like about this, is that it delved too deep into negativity and trigger warning for violence, lots of violence. However, pushing that aside, the overall premise was good. I just felt that it could have been done a little bit better. It felt rushed. That doesn't take away from the overall feel. I did overall enjoy it. I just felt that it could have been more fleshed out. It could have been less rushed, and maybe, you know, the new characters that we see could have been a little bit more fleshed out and a little bit more well understood, because I was left wanting to know more about the newer characters, and I didn't really care about even Bram this time. I didn't care, and that was really sad for me, because after reading Eve of Man in January, I absolutely loved it and was so excited for this, but it fell flat and good. Next up is my most recent read, and that is Final Girls by Riley Sager. This one I finished yesterday and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. This one was a low 3 for me, so it's a very mid-range book overall. I had problems. So Final Girls follows 3 girls, Quincy, Lisa and Sam. However, we mainly focus on Quincy because that is the main protagonist, so obviously we're going to focus on her. But we follow Quincy as she is 10 years forward from a drastic life event at a place called Pine Cottage. She is a final girl, and a final girl is somebody who is the sole survivor of a horrific massacre or a horrific event. She has an attachment to the policeman that first found her, called Coop. We see him flitting in and out of the story, so we have that sort of attachment to the original situation constantly, and I don't know if that's a good thing, because all Quincy wants to do is move on with her life and appear normal. So when Sam turns up, who is one of the other final girls, it kind of throws her life into chaos. At the moment she has a steady boyfriend, she has a steady baking blog, she is doped up most of the time on prescription drugs, and she's fairly happy, fairly content until Sam arrives, and Sam just throws her whole life into chaos. Everything she knew, everything she thought she knew about being normal, throws it all into chaos. And what makes things worse is the first and original final girl, Lisa, turns up dead, and this then brings the whole situation of being a final girl to light by the news again in the media, and they're constantly on their back, constantly hounded. And so much happened in this short book that I felt like it probably could have been broken down into 2 books. Great that it was a standalone, but I feel like it probably could have been broken down, because there was a lot of things that were left unanswered. A lot of things that were left unanswered for me personally, or like occasions where they just sort of fled over things and that was it. But I think that's just the necessary pacing and writing style of a thriller. This one, I wouldn't say it's young adult, I would say it's an adult thriller. There's trigger warnings for violence, murder, assault, blood, gore, knife violence, potential gun violence from what I remember, or am I wrong? I might be wrong about that. I've been watching a lot of Netflix where there's guns, and I think I've got that overlap. But there is a fair few trigger warnings for this one. I gave a very middle of the road rating because for me, it screwed me over. So I kind of saw where this was going in terms of who people are, who people really are, and yeah, I can't really say too much without like giving it away, but I kind of saw where this was going and I was sad about that. However, the writing style was good, the pacing was good, I just felt it could have been fleshed out more, and we could have found out more about other instances within the backstories of characters. But yeah, overall, middle of the road rating. Next up, I have a one that I read as I was finishing filming my last wrap up, so I don't think it featured. But this one, if you like Centrillians with a dystopian twist, you will love Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It follows a young girl who has a facial disfigurement, as in she's blind in one eye, as a flower is growing out of it. And this cover gives me Selena Gomez vibes. Just, she looks like Selena Gomez. Like, I feel like that's who it's modelled on. But this follows our main character who lives on a remote island, on a school on a remote island, in a quarantine situation with pupils who are similar to her, who all have some sort of disfigurement in terms of plants or feathers or bones. Basically, anything you can think of that would be kind of creepy, they probably have it, or somebody they know has it. We follow these girls as they are quarantined on this island. They believe they're being rescued, and they've been told to wait, so that's what they're doing. Premise, when I say that, it doesn't sound very good, but I will read you first bit. It's been 18 months since the Raxter School for Girls was put under quarantine, since the tox hit and pulled Hattie's life out from under her. It started slow. First the teachers died one by one, then it began to infect the students, turning their bodies strange. Left to fend for themselves on their island home, the girls don't dare wander outside the school's fence, where the tox has made the woods wild and dangerous. As it seeps into everything, they wait for the cure they were promised. But when her best friend Bayet goes missing, Hetty will do anything to find her, even if it means breaking quarantine and braving the horrors that lie outside. And when she does, Hetty learns that there's more to their story, to the tox and their life at Raxter, than she ever thought possible. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the friendship aspect. I enjoyed how it was very high schooly, so like it reminded me of being in comp, which is, you know, 7 to 11 or 11 to 16 here, or 11 to 18 now rather. It reminded me a lot of the trivial dramas of that, but at the same time putting a dystopian twist on it. I loved the twist in it as well, and I just really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend this to somebody who wants a quick dystopian read and can kind of deal with the idea of quarantine and a tox. Right now might not be the best time, but I really enjoyed this and I would highly recommend it. Another pandemic book. No surprise if you have watched my channel or been around for a while, but I posted a reading vlog where I shared that I was reading this and loving it, and that is The Firemen by Jo Hill. I rated this one 4 out of stars. 4 out of stars? 4 out of 5 stars. It was more like 4.5. Absolutely loved it. It was my first Jo Hill book. I have no regrets. This one follows our main character who is living in a worldwide pandemic where if you catch the virus, it makes you essentially burst into flames. So we follow Harper, our main character, who finds out she's pregnant at the start of this virus situation. She's leaving a very manipulative relationship behind because she finds out that she has the tox. She's been working in a school as a school nurse where the kids have been coming in with like tummy aches and feeling generally unwell, and that is the start of the virus. That's how the virus kicks in with kids and adults. So she's actually picked this virus up, this dragon scale virus. That's how they can tell if you have it, is the scale. So she picks up the scale and leaves her manipulative husband behind because he doesn't want anything to do with her. He actually actively wants to kill her when he finds out that she picks up this virus. And we follow Harper as she is literally doing anything she can to survive for the sake of her unborn child, which is when we meet the fireman. He can shoot fire from his hands. I think that's pretty magical for a horror book. I really enjoyed it. It is quite graphic in some parts, but it's more the drama and the new familial settings and how you can go on as a society in the middle of a pandemic when you're suffering yourself. I really enjoyed it. Would highly recommend for anybody who wants to get into Jo Hill's Stephen King kind of works but doesn't want the full-on horror. Okay, so last up should be of no surprise if you watch my channel, look at Instagram or Twitter at all, but that is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas. Easily, hands down, one of my favourite reads of the year so far. It is up there with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, without a doubt. This one was 5 out of 5 stars, so hear me out, okay? I did a couple of rereads off the back of this. I decided I would reread Heir of Fire. I've had issues in the past with Sarah J Maas, as in didn't understand why one of the characters existed in Heir of Fire. Reading this and then rereading Heir of Fire, it just all made sense. It all clicked really well. I really enjoyed this one. This follows Bryce, and it's a murder mystery over her best friend's death. Urban fantasy. There's many magical creatures in it, and it's built around a similar society to now with more technological advancements, and I lived for that. I really enjoyed it. I think Sarah J Maas did something really wonderful in this, in that she took the modern world, adapted it, but didn't adapt it too far that it was totally unrealistic, like as in vampires that glitter. There was none of that. It was more, these people can turn into angry werewolves like that and they will rip the shit out of you. But when they're not, they're lovely, but don't piss them off because you will get ripped to shreds. There was pretty much every single like mystical, mythical being that you could think of pretty much in here, and I lived for that. I loved that. This is apparently going to be a trilogy from what I've read, and I need book 2 now. I don't know when it's coming out, so if anybody knows about that, let me know. But I absolutely loved this one, and yeah, I'm gonna actually try and reread this soon. I did tab it quite a bit as well, so I read this over the course of 4 days. I read it over Easter weekend and I loved it, and I want to get that feeling back again, so I am going to try and reread this one, but I'm hoping it doesn't take away from the magic. I absolutely loved it. I would highly recommend this for anybody who wants something that could deal as a standalone, like it really could manage as a standalone if you're happy having smaller unanswered questions. However, if you have those unanswered questions, you're going to want to read the second one. I really loved it. I would highly recommend this to everyone. And even if you read it at your own pace, it's actually really quite easy to follow. I know that I've had issues, my friends had issues with Sarah J Maas in the past, and people who've never read Sarah J Maas before or have only read a book and didn't like it and didn't continue with that series have read this and said this was much better. But I absolutely loved it. I loved Bryce, I loved Hunt, I loved was it Ren? Is Ren his name? I want to say Ren is the way to Rune, not Ren, Rune. I really liked Rune, which is, I'm not going to tell you who it is, and Lehaba as well. Really loved their characters. Just pretty much everyone. The characters were written really well, and even the bad guys you kind of sympathise with a little bit, and it's really hard to do in a book where you're supposed to hate the bad guys, and I think Sarah J Maas has done a fantastic job, as I said, and I would highly recommend. So there we have it. Those are my 5 highlights. As I mentioned, I did read some sequels. So off the back of Evolution, I did a little sequels challenge, and I shall link that video up there or down there if I remember, where I completed 2 books and started a 3rd. One of those I'm still in the middle of. So I reread Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton and also Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas. Rereading both of these has me really amped for picking up the sequels. I think my original stance was 4 out of 5 stars for this one. That still stands. This one is going up from a 3 to a 4. Really enjoyed it, really understood and appreciated why Manon existed at this point. Listening to it on audiobook through Audible, I think it was in the end, I really understood where her necessity came in, and it makes me want to pick up Queen of Shadows. I'm really pleased that I picked these 2 up as well, and yeah, I would highly recommend that you pick these up if you haven't already. Okay, so let's try not to drop these. There we have it. These are the most recent reads that I've read and loved. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were, and have I convinced you to pick any of them up? I would really like to know what you're thinking. If you open that description box next to the little like and subscribe, you can do that. It would really help my channel out a lot, and I would really appreciate you joining my little bookish family. I have a little link to all of my social medias as well, so go ahead and check those out if you would like to be friends on any other platform. But that is it for today's video, and I shall see you all in the next one. Bye!